What's up guys, I'm Dan with Create Minis, and this week we're painting Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker is one of the latest expansions to Star Wars Legion. He adds a strong, albeit unstable commander to your Republic forces. You can assemble Anakin in one of two ways: a confident one-handed grip, or a more menacing two-handed grip. For this assembly, I'm going to be choosing the more menacing approach. Also, he comes with two different heads, one with a light smirk, and of course, one with a little more anger. We begin prepping the model by first removing it from the sprue. When removing the lightsaber bit, try and get as close as you can without damaging the blade itself. You want a nice smooth finish when you're done. Once the model is fully removed from the sprue, begin cleaning off the mold lines with the back edge of your X-Acto knife. Remove as much as you can from the lightsaber blade, but be careful, don't dig too deep. If you need to, use a fine grit sandpaper or sanding stick to remove the rest. Then, in order to make the head easier to paint, I take a small hobby drill and drill a hole into the bottom of the head where it will later be concealed. I then place the head atop a piece of toothpick stuck into cork. Now we begin assembling the rest of the model. I'll be using plastic glue for this, specifically Tamiya Extra Thin Cement. For ease of paint, I'm going to dry fit the hand with the saber, but not glue it until later. This will allow me to get in and get all the details of the cloth, hands, and saber later. With the extra bit, I've drilled a small hole into the arm socket and put that on a toothpick as well. Lastly, I'll take a very small amount of super glue and glue him to an old base I have laying around. It makes it easy to paint and easy to hold. Speaking of bases, since I've got the primer out, I've mocked up a small base to put him on when we're done. If you'd like to see how I did that, I've got a video in the link above. Prime them both in matte white, and let's get paint on the palette. All of the paints I'm using I'll list down in the description below, but to make it even easier for you, if you join my Patreon, I've got a downloadable PDF of this model. It'll show you exactly which paints I used and where. Operative level patrons like Tim Jansen from the Netherlands will gain immediate access to this after every video that I post. It's a great way to keep track of the paints I use, and it also helps out the channel. I'll have a link in the description below. Now let's throw some paint on the model. This model in particular is a mixture of blacks and browns. We're going to start out with chocolate brown on the pant legs. Don't be afraid if you get a little bit on the boots or on the cloak itself, as we'll be covering that with a darker color next. Once the pants are done, catch the shirt underneath his tabard. If you'd like at this point, you can also paint the sleeves on his shirt. I'm choosing for a darker look, so I'm going to keep those black like the rest of the tabard. The choice is yours, light or dark. For the boots, I'm using a German brown black by Vallejo. Cover the boots evenly, and this is where you'll begin to detail the difference between the boots and the pant leg. After you're done with the boots, now it's time to go with the tabard. I keep calling it a tabard, that's what we're going with, the black cloak thing that he wears. Either way, paint it with a solid coat of black, and how this drops for you. Now at this point, I'm going to paint the sleeves as dark as Anakin's soul, black. After the base coat is on, begin to trim in the edges around the undershirt. Here's where you really make the detailing. Thin your paints and take your time. Use a fine point brush and run it along the inside edge of both the front and the back. Now it's time to paint the belt. For this, we're going to be using the same German brown black we used on his boots, because Anakin is classy and he coordinates. Plus, it's 2021, it's cool to wear brown and black now. Once the belt is base coated, take chocolate brown and hit all the raised areas. This will bring a little bit of highlight and add depth to the belt. Only touch the raised areas and the little bit of satchels or bags or whatever fanny packs he has hanging on the side of his belt. Now let's add a little definition by hitting it with a wash. Over all of the brown areas, I use Agrax Earthshade. Apply the wash liberally and then wick away the extras that's pooling in the recessed areas. You want it to fill it in but not create pockets or puddles that end up looking like coffee stains when he's done. For the belt, I load my brush and push it around the middle of the belt. Then, I wick away the extra off onto a paper towel, and then use a dryer brush to pull the wash out to the edges so it doesn't run all over the black areas. Don't forget the undershirt, and then it's on to the black wash. For the black wash, I'm going to use Nuln oil. Do an even coat over all the panels. Make sure to get the recessed and under areas. With the washes complete, it's already beginning to look like a Jedi Master. It's too bad he won't make it there. Now take some German gray, thin it down, and let's paint some highlights. We're going to begin with edge highlighting. Take the sharp edges of the cloak, the tabard, whatever we're calling it, and we're going to highlight just the edges. After that, then we're going to take the raised folds and paint a subtle highlight on top of those. You may have seen this in my Darth Maul video. If you haven't, I don't know why, go check it out now, link above. After all the highlighting's completed, let's impress Padme a little bit and throw some gold on the belt. We're going to go with the buckle, there's a little button on the side, and the latch on the back. It adds a subtle bit of bling, but also a little bit of life and character to the model. Now onto his other hand, the more lifeless, robotic one. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to base coat with black, highlight with German gray. For his offhand, we're going to be using just a basic flesh tone from Vallejo. Then, to add a little bit of character to this arm, take some chocolate brown and paint these straps around his forearm. Highlight with German gray. Then, let's spend some of that Republic money and let's accessorize a bit. Throw a little bit of gold on the buckles here to really make this pop. The gold I've been using is Retributor Armour from Citadel. For the hilt of the lightsaber, I use Leadbelcher from Citadel. Once you've got the hilt painted, everything else will be reachable, so feel free to glue it to the model. The arm, not the hilt there. Set it aside and let the glue dry fully before you screw up your brushes. Now we'll move on to the face. We'll start with the basic flesh tone once again. Apply one thin coat and let it dry, then apply a second thin coat. The key here is to get full coverage, but yet keep it thin enough where you're not going to obscure the facial details. After that is fully dry, we're going to paint the eyes. For this, put some white in the recess where the eye would be. Don't be afraid to get it in the surrounding areas, as we'll frame it in with flesh tone. Just make sure you get a nice, even coat. For the irises and pupils, I took German gray and added just a little bit of blue to show a little bit of life left in those eyes. Thin your paints and barely touch the tip to the white area. Less is more here, take your time, and just barely tap it against the white area, building it up. Once you're satisfied with the amount of paint in there, you're going to take the flesh tone and frame the eyes back in. Run it along the upper and lower eyelids, creating the size of the eye that you want. Now we're going to add some depth to the face. Take the flesh tone and mix in a little white and focus on all the high areas. The cheekbones, the nose, the lips, the chin, the Adam's apple, anywhere that light would naturally reflect off of it. When you're finished with that, add a little more white to the skin tone and keep highlighting. Each time you're going to highlight less and less surface area. The cheekbones, work your way from the bottom to the top. The nose, go from the tip of the nose up to the ridge of the nose. The chin, the Adam's apple, just highlight the very tips of it at this point. You'll create a smooth gradient if you do this in several steps. That's nice. Now, don't forget to add the little scar, because chicks dig scars. For this, I mix in a very tiny amount of red into the flesh tone. After that, don't forget his eyebrows. Take some brown and the side of your brush and lightly catch the raised areas. Now, take the chocolate brown and base coat his hair in. Be careful when you get to the face that you edge it nicely. You don't want to screw up that awesome paint job you just did. After the hair is fully coated and has time to dry, we're going to take that Agrax Earthshade again and shade it in with a nice wash. Once again, don't let it bleed out onto the face and ruin your paint job, so be careful around the edges. Once that's had time to fully dry, I mix a little bit of the flesh tone into the chocolate brown and use it as a dry brush, creating highlights in the hair. Once you're happy with how the head looks, it's time to bring it all together. Glue it onto the body, and the last step is to paint the lightsaber. For the lightsaber, I took blue and white and mixed it together into a nice icy tone that I liked. Pick whatever color you want, and start by painting the entire length of the saber the base color. Once it's base coated, mix a little bit of white into the base color and paint about 75% of the blade. After that, remove the excess paint and begin to blend it into the other 25%. Repeat this process a few times, going lighter and lighter. Also, you can put a little bit of water onto an empty brush and use that to blend the paint together as well. To create the glowing effect, I tend to try to put the lighter edge towards the end of the blade and the darker towards the hilt. Once you're done with that, all that's left is throw him on a base. So there you have it, guys, Anakin Skywalker. If you like what you saw, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Drop me a comment down below, let me know what you thought of this tutorial or any future tutorials you want to see. If you really want to help the channel, become a patron like my good friends Hal and Tim, all the way from the Netherlands. What's up, Tim? So check out all the links in the description below for all the paints I use, links to my social media, my Patreon, anywhere else you can support the channel, spread the word. Hit that like button, and until next week, keep creating.